Hi everyone, I am here with my April reads and reviews. I'm gonna go in order of how I rated them from lowest to highest. Although even though I did DNF something, I didn't hate anything I read this month. It was a really good reading month. So let's get into it. Okay, I'm gonna start with the book that I DNF'd, which was Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I do not think this is a bad book. I did not hate it. I just wasn't interested in it. So no shade to people who did like it. I am sure that it is good, and I'm sure if I stuck with it, I probably would have liked it. It's literary fiction, so it's very character-based. Maren Ireland even was the audiobook narrator. I just cannot convey to you how little I am interested in hockey. I guess, I don't know. Next up, I read Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake, and I almost DNF'd this book too. I know there's a lot of differing opinions about this book on Book Talk. It kind of started very pretentious and self-indulgent. It had manic pixie dream girl energy, and I was like, ugh. I am glad that I stuck with it because Aldo and Regan will always now hold a place in my heart. They were so sweet. She wasn't a manic pixie dream girl. She wasn't there to just forward his journey. She was on her own journey. I just thought they understood each other in this such a beautiful way. I feel like anybody that is neuroatypical would really find some beauty in this book. I mean, I think anyone would find beauty in this book, but I just think you might find some solace in this book. It's very lovely. I also think that I really enjoyed the central message of other people outside of your relationship don't know what your relationship is like. Even well-meaning people can be very toxic to a relationship that they don't fully understand. Everybody was sort of concerned, this isn't going to last, she is a flight risk, all these things. It doesn't matter is kind of the central message. It's who cares? Nothing lasts. Why are we so concerned with it's not going to last forever? Who cares? If you find somebody that you connect with on that level and you understand and that understands you, just hold on to it for as long as you have it. Why does it matter? I don't know. I really enjoyed that message because I think that people weighing in, like I said, even people that mean well can really destroy a relationship, and it almost does in this book. Glad I read it. I give it a 4 stars, and I do recommend it, especially if you're somebody that likes character-driven romances and people that are a little bit broken. It was beautiful. Next, I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. And again, I almost DNF'd this one. Again, there's a lot of haters for this book on Book Talk, and I can see why. I'm not saying hate to the haters. When the book starts, it seems like it's giving you a family tree of a boring white rich family in Connecticut or Rhode Island or wherever it takes place. I was like, thank you, next. But I'm glad I stuck it out again. There's something, again, about this book. It was a little overdramatic and transparent. I mean, I definitely could see what was going on immediately. I don't think that matters. Also, when a book rests its whole thing on a character having amnesia, sometimes that's a huge turnoff for me, but I don't know. For some reason, something in this book worked. Maybe it was the Shakespeareanness of it all for me. It definitely has that feel. I love the little folk tales she tells throughout because I just feel like they elevate the book. This book is a cautionary tale in the way that Romeo and Juliet is, about if you sort of lose sight of what's important, everything can fall apart. This is kind of a YA contemporary mashup of Romeo and Juliet, King Midas, and King Lear, which I'd never seen anyone do King Lear before. I'm sure there are some out there, but I was impressed. I really enjoyed it. Again, is it a book I'm going to remember forever? I don't know. I think it was nearly brilliant, and I gave it a 4.25. Okay, so next up, I read A Funny Story by Emily Henry. Emily Henry put out a new book, and I read it immediately. What's not to love about an Emily Henry book? It is kind of a testament to how I feel about her as a writer and to her writing ability that this book does contain tropes that I don't love, but because she writes characters that I love so much, I kind of am okay with it. And I'll get into that a little bit, but I just think Daphne and Miles are so lovely and so relatable and so well written and so believable that I just accepted it. Miles might actually be my favorite MMC of all contemporary fiction. I mean, really, give me a carefree pothead who just loves people and is full of wonder with the world. What's not to love about Miles? I mean, really. One of the tropes that I don't really care for is the trope of the woman who finds it hard to trust men because her dad abandoned her. I'm not trying to belittle that situation for people that's actually happened to in real life. I just feel like it gives a man so much power over a woman's life, and I don't love that. But Daphne, again, was so well written and relatable that I just felt like she was kind of dealing with that the way any normal person would. She wasn't like over dramatic about it, or it wasn't like her entire personality, you know what I mean? Like, so I was okay with it in this situation. She's flawed. I love that she actually like ghosts her friend in the same way that like she hates being ghosted because like her father ghosted her. I thought that was kind of a brilliant little device there, that kind of forced her to grow and develop. The basic premise is that both Miles and Daphne were in serious relationships, and their partners both decided they were going to be together instead with each other. And so Miles and Daphne kind of are forced to kind of get an apartment together because, you know, this day and age. And so there's a forced proximity vibe, which I know is kind of fun. But, you know, they really develop a friendship and they develop love, and it is very sweet. I don't know that I will remember it until the end of time, but I do give it 4.5 stars. Okay, next up is Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. This was a real departure for me. I read this because I read Bad Omens, which is a Hermione fanfic by One Bed to Rule Them All. I'm going to do a separate video on Hermione fanfic because I read a lot of it this month and I want to talk about it. Bad Omens was so freaking hilarious that I decided to read Good Omens. The book was a little bit of a challenge for me at first too, because it kind of felt like it was like in love with its own humor. And it had one of those like old British audiobook narrator guys, which I sometimes struggle with. But I don't know, again, something about it gripped me, and man, this book is low-key a masterpiece. It was so funny. It was incredibly ambitious in scope. It had so many characters. They all played into the plot like so brilliantly. And the underlying theme of the book is that humanity is essentially good, and it has like a very optimistic worldview. And the book actually did make me tear up in the end, so I gave this book a 4.75. The Shepherd King Duology by Rachel Gillig, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. Ugh. I've seen this book all over BookTok, but I haven't actually really ever heard anybody talk about it. And so I didn't know what I was in for. I'm sort of weird with fantasy. Like, I like it in theory, but sometimes when I start reading it, I just can't with like all the elements. The world building sometimes becomes tedious, and I have a hard time gripping onto the story. That did not happen here. This book invaded my soul like Elspeth's nightmare. So there are no fae, there are no dragons, there are no wizards. This book is about humans, which I liked. Because of that, this book has like a definite dystopian or at least horrifyingly possible feel to it, which I think makes it even better. The premise is that you get access to magic through Providence cards, but each Providence card not only grants you a magical ability, but it also has a negative effect if you use it too long. For instance, one of the cards is called the Maiden card, and it makes you like super beautiful, but if you use it too long, like your heart goes cold and you can no longer feel emotions. I mean, it is brilliant. They're all like that. This thing with the cards feels like a real commentary on humanity, greed, goodness, virtue, all this stuff. It just, because people have to decide, like, are they going to use the cards, how long they're going to use them, what are they using them for? And so it's just not like people were gifted all these magical things. It's like they actually have the choice, and so it kind of makes it a little more interesting. There is gentle spice in this book, but it's the romance that you will love in both books. Raven and Elspeth are so freaking sweet in book one. I don't want to tell you who gets together in book two, but I thought book two was even better. The romance was even better. And that was impressive because sometimes book two can't live up to book one. That is not the case with this. These books felt like they defied fantasy, romance, or even like dystopian genre. I feel like they could just be called literary fiction because of the character studies in this book. Even though Elspeth is kind of the main character, the books are not really about her. The books are a study of Raven, who is great, Elm. I would die for Elm. If you liked Lucian, you will love Elm. Ione, I loved her. And the Shepherd King, who, like, you go through all these like different ways of feeling about him until the end, and that was really cool. Trees, these books are freaking fantastic. Easy 5 stars on both. If you liked ACOTAR and The Cruel Prince, you will love them, there's no doubt. Okay, I went with like the duology of light and dark because of Good Omens and the Shepherd King series. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.